Hello and welcome to another episode of DCBSTV. I am your host, Kara Landon, and I'm joined by our special guest, Amon, Creative Director for Life is Digital Media. In this series, we're going to be covering basically life after Full Sail, and we're going to kind of pick Amon's brain a little bit on what he's been doing over the last 10 years since graduating from Full Sail and after graduation life and what to expect. So welcome, Amon.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Is it good to be back after all this time?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all love. This people who I worked with and who has basically gave me all the jewels, a lot of jewels that I still use today. So when I see them, I'm like, you know what you said in class? Yeah.
And it sticks with you even still.
God, yes.
Cool. So when you graduated, I know your work has progressed and changed so much since you've graduated, but can you kind of give us an idea on what post-graduation work looks like, I guess, as opposed to how it transitions into now? Or it's definitely not the same thing, right?
No. Post-graduation work looks just like what it is, an introduction. Mm-hmm. That's what school is. You're being introduced to techniques and disciplines, and it's on you to take them further. Mm-hmm. So, my post-graduation work looks like I learned something.
Yeah. And
so it kind of has that, I use it, but I call it like student work funk on it, where you could just, you would tell like, oh, you just got out of school. Uh-huh. Okay, now what? But what takes that funk off your work is actual, real world pressures that come with, but you're prepared for it. Mm-hmm. So over time, the more projects you do, the more opportunities you get, mm-hmm. the more it just looks like actual work. It doesn't look like you are trying to do anything or you just learn this, which is part of it,
When you got your first gig out of school, did you submit a lot of your post-graduation
It got me
work?
Yeah. It got me work.
Yeah.
But gratefully and thankfully, they saw the potential in what I could do. Mm-hmm. And so they'll, you look like you can do that, let's give it a shot. And then from there, that's where the pressures of, like my first assignment was doing motion graphics. My first real gig was doing freelance motion graphics for a television show called Monster Mix on MTV2. Mm-hmm. And when the guy, he was like, hey, this is what we need done. Can you do this? I was like, I think I can. Mm-hmm. And then I left and I was like, I can't do that. So it was a Friday. He said, if you can show me that you can create one of these 15-second animations, we'll start throwing you some work. So that Friday, I took all the stuff that I had learned in Keith's class and various classes and going online and doing tutorials and just utilize all those things. Took me the whole weekend to do one or two. Mm-hmm. And then I gave it to him, and I'm like, I'm not gonna get this job or this freelance thing. And then he was like, this is awesome. And so at that point, I was like, all right.
Build your confidence up.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You gotta do it again. The reward for good work is more work, which is one of my professors told me in class when I was at Full Sail. Mm-hmm. And so okay, you did it once, now do it again. Mm-hmm. Now do it again and do it again. And so if you're smart, you'll go, how can I do this better? How mm-hmm. can I do this quicker? What am I doing wrong? Is there a script that I can use so I don't have to keyframe all that stuff? And so trying to make things more efficient, you just happen to get better and mm-hmm. you learn more. And if I'm doing one animation every couple of weeks, but then when I get the job, they're like, okay, we need 2 of those a day. Mm-hmm. You're going to figure out how to do it. So now that you know how to do this, you have the confidence. And so, it just takes you that much further.
And in addition to getting the freelance gig and working on that, was that your first interaction with a client,
No, I didn't. Because I went to Full Sail and because people knew that I had some kind of computer savvy, mm-hmm. I'm the guy in the family hey, my computer's crashing. Can you come to Jersey and fix it? And I'm like, I'm in Queens, So people kind of get that from you. So, I stumbled a lot. I made a lot of mistakes. Especially after post-graduation, I did very well. Mm-hmm. I did okay in university. I did okay, in undergrad, traditional college and, junior college, and I barely made it out of high school. But at Full Sail, I did well mm-hmm. because I was I want to see if I'm smart. And so I turned out I got like valedictorian, advanced achievement, 100% attendance. Like those were but when I graduated, I was like, all right, where's that 6-figure job? Where's it at? Where's it at? Like, let's get this money. Like, you know. So the reality is that that's not what's waiting on. The other side was I got an internship at Nickelodeon. I got tons of exposure, but that internship didn't, you know, I didn't get any residual out of it, but I got a ton of experience. And then I parlayed Nickelodeon when I got that freelance job. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing something over at Nickelodeon.
So it kind of built,
yes,
and it helped you market yourself a little bit.
Absolutely.
So how do you say you market yourself, like in today's market, like, and interacting with clients? Have you done something that kind of pushed you?
Personal projects. Personal projects are the best way for me to kind of start that conversation, which is New York time lapse. One of the examples that comes to mind is New York time lapse, and that allowed me to go around the city and just capture all the places that I thought were really cool, and create time lapses out of them. And from that, parlayed a lot of work from it. But it was just something that I was doing that had nothing to do with money. It was just
something for fun, and it ended up turning out to
but
be.
But it's a conversational piece. Like clients would bring it up. They would see it on my site and be like, I love that because it's short, you know, and it got to the point fairly quickly. So from that conversation, I could parlay opportunities.
And I think you brought the time lapse.
I did.
Here with you. So we'll go ahead and show that this is the time lapse New York, one of the pieces that caught a lot of attention and got you some extra work too.
Yeah.
That's actually one of my favorite pieces that you've done, just because there's so many different shots that you've done. What actually came about from that? I know you have a cool story about catching wind of it.
Literally, I posted it on Vimeo, and it did well. Like, it didn't get like the whole staff picks, but it got like 20,000 views, and from that, it gave me the confidence to start shopping it around. And so Sony was having a competition about short videos, and so I submitted it, and so I got honorable mention, and then the editors for Digital Photo Magazine caught wind of it, and they asked me to do an interview, and so I did an interview, and they published it in their magazine maybe a year ago. And I mean, from that I got even more confidence where I'm like, well, let me give it to Corbis, and so now those clips are sitting in Corbis, and when people buy the clip royalty free, I'll get a check for like $100, which is great because like my cell phone is $100. Like,
so you just get residual off of something that you just shot.
And it's not a lot, but like when you don't have to worry about a phone bill, that works.
That's
so
awesome.
You know, little things like that were when, you know, because like working as a creative, sometimes you're living like a king and sometimes you're living like a pauper, I guess. And so little things like that will, when you're kind of down here, will kind of bring you back up,
and
you know.
Reassure you why you're doing everything.
So when it comes to marketing yourself, personal projects have helped that a lot.
Yeah. So any final thoughts you want to give to just after graduation students that are about to graduate and what they can expect from where they are, maybe with 5-year goals, or any final thoughts on that?
What I would say is just, you have an idea of where you want to be in the industry, but don't forget to create the stuff that you want to be hired to do. Do it yourself. Like, no one's going to walk up to you and present you to be a photographer or a videographer unless you're associated with that work. And so do it yourself, you know, and it could be something that you're very passionate about. It could be wakeboarding, it could be food. But if someone's like, man, I saw that video you did about pizza and I made it and it was good, you know, like, you've basically created a video that has function, that has aesthetic, and now you're associated with that content in that work, and that will get you a lot of opportunities. And
also, too, I noticed, to kind of close things out, you started saying when you graduated you were a graphics guy, and now you've like totally evolved into something more. So kind of, you know, don't just, whatever you start with, that's the end all be all, but evolve yourself.
This industry is constantly changing, constantly evolving. Like, when I started, we were on tape. And then we were on hard drives, and now we're on little tiny cards. And now some of the cameras come with a hard drive already inside. You know, so like being able to be very flexible, even with your website, like, oh yeah, you're Flash, well now we're WordPress, and then it'll be something else. So I mean, like, just being very flexible in the sense of like, don't be a rock, you know,
Right.
like, be water.
That's awesome. That's very zenful and peaceful.
I think it's because I'm thirsty.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this Life After Full Sail with you. You have so much experience and knowledge. So I just want to thank you again for coming and talking to the students and everybody else.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, guys.